All right, let's get started. This video, we're going to paint Dr. King on the bike. I'm going to use everything that you would have in your essentials kit. So you have your paint, the 2 brushes, 1 big, 1 small. You have your palette. Also make sure you have plenty of water. So I have 2 vessels of water. Whatever I use for water, because of the paint toxicity, just use something that you're not going to use again. So this right here is a basin that I got online, pretty affordable. And I like it because, I don't know if you can see, but the bottom has little ridges. And there are little circles here where you can leave your paint brushes while they're drying. Or you can set them over here and lean them while they're drying. Yeah, you know, it's kind of cool. And there's little ridges on the side that you can use to clean off the brush. So this is really helpful. I also have just an old medicine cap from liquid cough syrup that I'm going to use. And this is what's going to help me when I want to dilute the paint just a little bit. I can just pour a little water in there. In one video I made, I use this big vessel right here to pour the water, and that was not good. So I'm just gonna open the paint. So if you notice the way it comes, one is standing up, one is upside down. You flip it, one is standing up, one is upside down. So just be aware of that when you open, and be really careful how you open. I don't suggest that you ever open them above your piece because it might splash and then get on your piece. So I don't suggest that. So what I like to do is just hit them on the table a little bit. I want to move my water. And then even hit the top of them. I don't know if you can see. Just hit the top just to try to knock it down. I don't know if that works or if that does anything. Something else that I use is just a brush cleaner and conditioner. And that's because since we only have these 2 brushes that come in your kit, I'm going to be doing lots of cleaning, and that just helps. If you don't have that, you can use just a little vessel like this with some, just a very little Dawn, and in between changing your colors. But if you have enough water, you don't really need the soap. You can just wash, wash a paper towel, wash until you get it clean when you're changing in between colors. Again, this should be fun. If you don't have, these are the only paint brushes that come with, and these are more than enough to do your piece. You have these 12 paints that come with it. This is more than enough to paint your piece. You will definitely have paint left over for other little fun projects. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I just want to show you my color wheel. So Dr. King was brown skin. Whenever I see browns in Black people, oranges, reds. And so I like to use contrasting colors. So that means whatever color I see in their skin, so like, you know, orange, the opposite on the color wheel is blue. So that's going to be my undertone. I'm going to show you the difference later if you don't put an undertone in the skin. And so I'm going to use my small brush, and I'm going to use the darkest blue, because there's a couple of different blues and purples that come in your kit. I'm going to use this darkest blue. And again, don't open the paint over your piece just in case it splashes. Even though these pieces are pretty forgiving, because I've had accidents and I've just used a little bit of paper towel to wipe it up. So here we go. That's a really clean open. So there's a little top, there's a little tip at the top, little tip at the bottom. And so you pull that up, hold the other one down, and it will come up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour just the slightest bit of water into a well of the palette. And then I'm going to take blue. Don't do it over your paint, over your piece like I'm doing. I'm gonna take a heaping of blue and mix that in to the well. And this is going to be the start of my undertone for Dr. King. There's lots of blue on the brush because of how I dipped it in, so it'll be a little darker. So if you want to lighten it, you just move it around or add a little more of that diluted. But for now, I'm just gonna give a nice little wash. I'm gonna leave a little bit of white under his eye. Again, anything you don't like, just go back in. And for the nose, because the way our nose usually works is there's a lightness that comes like down from the eyebrows, and then the sides of the nose are a little darker. So I'm gonna use a little bit darker on the sides coming down from the eyebrows, and then leave that white in there. And then it's usually, our noses are usually a little darker around the nostrils. So I'll put that in there. And so I learned in my little art class that I took, I'm mostly self-taught, but I've taken, a few art classes here and there. This is called a value study, where you kind of go through and decide what's darker. And we do this with the undertone. So to make it a little darker, I can mix a little bit of the blue, and I just put a little bit on the side there. The parts I want to be darker, like around his head, I want that part to be darker. Over here, darker. Under the neck should be darker, of course, because of the shadow of the head. We also got, I've helped you out a little bit on the canvas. We have some darkness under there, but I just want to make that a little darker. That's his shirt, so I'm going to make that just a little darker under the head. Under the lip, it's usually a little darker because of the shadow. Poor Dr. King was always exhausted because of his work, so I'm going to make just a little darker under his eyes. And like I said, with the nose, and that there's this natural line usually from the eyebrow down the nose. Maybe the side of his head over here is a little darker. And I know it's blue, and you're like, what? But I promise you, it's gonna work. It's going to give us what we need. And I have these little lines here, so if you want, you can just put a little blue on those lines so they're there, a little darker. And then I'm gonna leave a little bit of light on his cheek right here. That's gonna be a little lighter. I'm gonna leave a little light right there. I'll leave that light there, gonna leave that light on his nose. And we're gonna come down to the hand. There's not a lot of skin on Dr. King because he is wearing, my friend made a joke saying he's wearing a 12-piece suit. He's riding this bike, and this is based on a real picture not too long before he passed, actually. He went to Fire Island to have a fundraiser, and while there, he just decided, he saw, a bike exchange situation, and so he hopped on the bike, and there was a photographer who captured the moment of him riding the bike, and he's riding through town. At one point, people are coming out and talking to him. So on the hands, usually we have some, our knuckles have some things. So I didn't do the best with the hands and the details. So you kind of, you know, his knuckles there. So again, I'm just adding a little darkness to where I think it might be. You know, our hands usually have little darker marks. So they're not my best. Hands are hard. Hands are super hard. But, you know, just a little something there. So I want that to dry. If you got a deluxe kit, you got a fan. So I do want the undertone to dry like 95%. Like I don't want it to be all the way dry. I do want it to blend a little bit, but I want a nice dryness. So now he's got shoes, he's got a suit. I've decided that I'm gonna be a little bold with this. So I'm gonna give him a purple, no. I'm gonna give him a yellow shirt and a black suit. I feel like there's a lot of black already. I don't know, let's do this. Let's give him a pink shirt with a purple suit. So I'm just gonna clean my brush. It shouldn't be too bad because it was mostly water that I was using, but I'm gonna clean my brush really well. I'm gonna check it before I introduce a new color to it. It looks pretty clean to me. So let's go ahead and make that shirt pink. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna use the pink right out of the container. So I don't want it to be perfect. I wanna leave some of the white. You don't have to do that. It's really what you want it to be. What I'm just gonna do is come down here. And again, you use the colors that you wanna use. You don't even have to use this paint kit. You can use markers. You can use paint markers, fabric markers, permanent markers, even Crayola. But I'm just going to color in some of this pink, or paint rather, some of this pink and leave some of the white. Because I think that little contrast, I'm using the small brush because that is the easiest to not paint on the black. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave a little bit of that because I think that's nice. I think it's nice when it's not perfect. And because then it allows the canvas to do some of the work. But you do what you want to do. You might look and say, oh, that doesn't look done to me, but I love it. So I've got that. So he's got a suit. So yeah, I'm going to go in with the purple. And again, if you really want to get fancy with this, you can do contrasting colors. So just like we're contrasting with the skin, you can do that, complementary colors rather, I'm sorry. Wait, now I forgot the phrase, because there's contrasting and complementary. So I think complementary is what we're doing, which is opposite. But let me make sure. Yes, complementary colors are opposite on the color wheel. So yes, these are opposite on color wheel. They're complementary. So doing the purple undertone, doing the purple suit, what I could do to make it a lot more interesting is to look at my color wheel, say, oh, okay, I have a violet, and then put yellow under it. So then when I put the purple over top of that violet over top, it would really do something special. But for the sake of time, I'm just gonna use it right out of the tube, which is not really a tube, right out of this vessel. And again, I'm not going to color it all in. I'm going to leave a little bit of white in some areas just to make it a little interesting. I'm also going to change up my brush strokes a little to give it some texture. Look at that. This is fun. So just be careful. And of course you can paint on the lines, but I think letting the lines do some of the work is good. Also, a habit that I am really trying to break is putting my hand on the canvas. Because if there are areas that are wet, or if there's something on your hand, it is not good. So, like I said, I'm gonna leave just a little white in some areas. Not gonna leave too much over here. I'm gonna leave more over here. Because in my head, the sun is coming over here, so this will be lighter. But the way a suit fits, especially when it folds like this, there's always some areas where the light is, and so some areas that look darker. So, you know, like in these folds, I'm gonna leave some of that white. I just think it makes it more interesting, but you do whatever feels right to you. The only thing that's wrong when we do this work is if you're not having fun. If it's stressing you out and it's not fun and you're upset and you're disappointed, then you're doing it wrong. I love what's happening. So this is like the lining of the suit. As you can see, it kind of flipped up a little bit. That's what that is. Same way here. This is the lining. It's like a little peekaboo. So I'm not going to do that purple. I'm going to do that something else. The lapels, I haven't decided yet. So like I said, on this side, I'm going to leave a lot more white than I did on the other side. Just to make it a little more interesting. And you can mosaic, see, like this is going on. You can come in and mosaic. You can do some really cool stuff with, like you can trace this, because it's pretty dark. You can put like tracing paper over top, trace that, and then take that tracing paper and put it on some really cool fabric that you might have, and then go through, cut out the pieces and decoupage them or glue them on. Or you can do that with paper. I've done some cool stuff like that before. So I've decided that the lapels are going to be purple, evidently. Because, you know, Dr. King was a humble man. Even though he was known for dressing, now near the end of his life, he had pretty much renounced capitalism in a way that he was not really big into spending a lot of money on clothes and whatnot. But when he was younger, I talked about it in the video I did with the picture of him and Mrs. King. He was a much younger Dr. King in that photograph. he did like to dress. And when I say like to dress, the black people know what I mean. He really liked to wear nice clothes and was somewhat of a flashy dresser. So again, I'm gonna leave a little bit of white, just for the sake of interest. I think it like leaving a little bit of that white gives me like more of a pop art feel, which I'm really into, especially using this purple, which is super bold. Pink is soft. Just gonna go down this line, go down this line. So I would love to see what you do with your pieces. I would love to see, and I would love to show them. If you're interested, you can email me, Derek at derekterry.com. I'd love to get that out. Oh, I really like what's happening here. I know he's still blue. We're going to address that in a second. I'm just really waiting. I know some of the blue hand is not dry, and I don't want to lose that detail when I paint over him. So that's why I'm waiting. I like what's happening here. I'll leave a little bit of that white. So again, that's the lining. His suit is, to me, purple, 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 purple. So, and pay attention, this is the bike, that's the suit, that's the seat of the bike, that's the back wheel suit, there's suit in between the spokes, that's the lining. So I'm just gonna use the flat side, little short strokes. And I like this detail of the black, so I'm gonna leave a little white to help show that. And that's just a bend in his leg. I'm just using the corner to get in between there. I really like this purple. I am so glad I made that decision. So I'm leaving the line there. Like, there's so many things we can do with 12 colors. If you have 12 colors, you have 100 colors. Because you can mix, mix, mix. And that's what this palette is for. I'm not doing any of that now. But the plan is for me to make more videos. And maybe not do like full on videos with different techniques, but to show, hey, you can do this, or you can do that. There's some really cool stuff you can do when you have a canvas like this and paint with glue. So you can put down glue just on the blank canvas, paint over top of it, let it dry for a day or two, and then peel up the glue, and whatever design you had will pop through in the white. Or you can put an undertone, let that dry really, really well, then put glue on top, let that dry really, really well, and then paint over top of that, so then you can have some really cool things happening. Like I said, you can use markers, you can make true mixed media. So you see with that white popping through, it gives it a really nice, to me, cartoony, pop art kind of thing. And I like it. It's, you know, it's me. So this is open below. I'm trying to show that there's distance, so you can see the spikes, or the not spikes, the spokes here, and not in that back wheel. There's little tricks that you can use to make something look distant. If you're really fancy, you can also decide there's a house here and maybe a road that comes down and ends and gets bigger, so it gets more narrow. So you can add to the background here. There's just so many things you can do. Be careful once you get into these little small areas. If you're using the big brush, I mean, of course, the big brush is good to, you know, get in there and put more paint down. But I don't want to lose these lines that are on the canvas, because they're really helping to tell the story. And you lose a little detail, but also know that they make it a lot more difficult to paint. So if you need to, when you're doing some of these little areas, then if you need to, don't use the big brush, use the small brush. Of course, if you have other brushes at home, use those. These are not the fanciest brushes in the world. They're not gonna last forever. They'll last for a few projects with you. If you keep them clean, you don't store them wet, upside down. But yeah, these are not the fanciest. So you can supplement, you can, you know, get other brushes. So I do think it looks better in these spokes if I don't leave very much white. This looks neater. So I'll do that. Bam, this is fun. The colors are fun. You can go really serious. You have enough black to paint this suit black. I left a lot of white over here. I've decided that maybe that's too much. So I'm gonna use my small brush in purple to just add a little purple in there. Yeah. To close that up a little bit. So I'm gonna clean that off. I'm also decided that his shoes are gonna be purple, but we're not going to paint all of the shoe. So there's a lot of white, and that white is helping us a lot, honestly. It's helping it look like a shiny shoe. So what we're gonna do I'm just gonna paint a little bit of purple in there, but still leave like some white so that it looks shiny. You'll see what I'm saying. Because if you have shiny, when the light hits it, that's what makes it shiny, is, you know, is the light. And when the light hits it, it takes away that color. So I'm gonna leave a little bit of white there, and then I'm gonna come down here and do the same. So bam. We still got a nice shiny shoe, but it's kind of purple. I'm going to add just a little purple over here. I'm doing the same thing. Leaving some white. Man, let me tell you, I don't know if Dr. King ever had a purple suit, but he would have been sharp in it. So, believe it or not, we're like almost done. So I've got a lot of purple in this brush. So getting it out will be a little bit of a chore, but you know, just keep watering. See, I can see it actually on the brush. I can see it. Be really careful when you do this type of thing over your piece. But for the sake of recording and me wanting you to see this, that's the only reason. Otherwise, I would never have something. See, my instinct is to keep moving it away from the piece. Okay. So we'll let that do its thing. I'm gonna get my small brush, make sure it's clean. And now I'm going to use, so a difficult and probably the appropriate way to do this would be to take, like I said, brown skins, you have reds and red oranges, so you know, I might have like a umber or sienna or raw sienna. These are colors that would be in a kit. Or I would just take the red and blue and maybe a little yellow, and I would just keep layering until I got the colors that I wanted. We're having fun, and that, you know, color theory stresses me out. Like I said, I'm self-taught, had a bunch of classes, but still don't feel too confident in that. So what I'm gonna do is let this undertone do a lot of the work in the brown. So just right out of the container, I'm just taking just the slightest bit of brown and going above that blue. And I'm just gonna go around the perimeter because that's what I want to be the darkest. And as I'm doing this, I've decided that that is too strong of a brown. So I have a little well that I've put a little water in. And now I'm just gonna go in and work with this brown to dilute it. So see what's happening? Because we're using these contrasting color of that blue, it's really doing some interesting things with the brown that I have on top of it. Also, paint sticks to paint better than it will the canvas. These canvas boards are primed, triple primed, so that makes them a lot easier, of course, to hold the paint. But nothing is better than still putting some of the paint that you're using under, like, in other words, doing a couple layers. So a lot of artists, of course, when they get a canvas, the first thing they'll do is take a white primer or, you know, white paint or something and go over it. So now I'm just taking this brown right out of the, and I'm adding some worry lines because, you know, even though Dr. King was only about 38 in this picture, and again, I keep messing up and putting my hand, luckily it's dry, but try not to put your hand on your piece. And then I'm going under, you know, I'm paying attention to the values, which remember where we put darker, so I'm going over darker with the brown. Then I'll go over here where we have the darker. And look what's starting to happen. It's starting to look like, oh, there's some depth there. Under his lips, under his neck, it'll be kind of dark. I'm still letting that blue do some work. I'm just paying attention to how I did that value study. And I know that the nostril should be a little darker. So see how like real that nose is starting to look? So now I'm going to dilute. I'm going to use this diluted brown that I have and go in and just kind of smooth it out. Be really careful. I want this to be light, but not white. It's a little too light, maybe. Getting under the eye, the side of the nose. Here, getting that eyebrow, getting under his eye. Under the nose is typically pretty dark because of the shadow of the nose. So remember, I don't want to lose that lightness of the nose. So like I want a line right here of a little light. So usually I have like pointy Q-tips that I use, but I forgot to grab some. So I'm taking just a little bit of paper towel, getting it as small point as I can, hopefully, is going through, adding that line there. And honestly, that nose is perfect complexion. I need to get that on his forehead now. much brown. So yeah, the blue is doing some work. But we also want that brown to do a little work. And I'm actually going to go back in with some of this blue that I have in the areas that I want to be a little lighter. I'm just going to use that. Yep. Under there should be pretty dark. It should be darker under his neck than what's on his head. So we got a really nice dark brown situation. So the way most black people, our lips are, is that the bottom lip is lighter than the top lip. So for most of us, so anytime I paint black people, I always think about that. And of course you can look at the picture of them. There are pictures of Martin Luther King color. So I'm just gonna do just a little light wash with the brown on the bottom. Add a little bit of the brown around that, and then do a darker lip at the top. I feel like I lost some of his lip because I painted over some of the line with the brown. So I'm just gonna go in. There we go. I think that's better. Also a little bit of the white in his eyes. So I may want to add that. To watch white, because it can, there is such thing as like too much. There's also usually just a reflection in the eye, like in the actual pupil. So to me, adding that is helpful. If you want, you don't have to, because he's cool without it. We are super close. So let's do these hands. Maybe they're dry. Yeah, for the most part. So remember, darker situation. I keep saying situation. Like there are darker lines on his hands. So I'm gonna make sure I don't want to lose those that I put. So just the brown, and then I'm gonna take my muted brown a little and go in. And, you know, make sure that the hands and the face are close, will match. Because our hands and face are typically the same complexion. Really important for me to take the time to get the skin tones right. Especially for Black people. There's so much art from non-Black artists that, especially back in the day, that just painted us all one color. And not only culturally are Black people not a monolith, our skin tones are not. So, you know, pay attention to that type of thing. I really like doing undertones. Perhaps I could have done this one a little darker. Maybe that could have helped some. I'm just gonna go back in the black, like I said, with the brown, and just add another layer to get the parts dark that I want. It just adds a little more depth. Add just a little more depth. And again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. The only wrong way is if you're not having fun. So speaking of fun, for the sake of time, Dr. King is going to have a pink bike to match his pink shirt and his pink lining in his purple coat or suit. So to do that, I'm just going to take the pink right out of the vessel. And the bike is metal, so I think there should be a spot So yeah, I thought I'll try to scrape that and see what happens. I actually think I like the paper towel method better. I just want to leave that white, because metal, you know, when it's out in the sun, there should be some white. When the metal hits it, it reflects. I'm gonna leave the tires white. It's a white wall. I'm just gonna come in. And again, you can use the small brush if you feel more comfortable. Or if you don't, I'm just using the tip of the big brush. It just has more coverage. Not painting it in perfectly because I want to leave some of the white. I'm going to let the canvas do some of the work. Same way with here. And of course it looks better. You can decide if you want to do thicker, heavier layers. Trying not to touch my canvas, and I'm also trying not to turn it, which is what I would do if I was not recording. I'm trying to keep it in the area. So remember this little bit right here, and it kind of loses it because I left some of the white, but that's the lining. So I'm just gonna add that. Oh, I forgot that I'm doing the bike pink, and this lining is pink, so it's a little pinky right here. But it definitely works. This little part right here is like the wheel cover. And so that to me is pink. The back one is a little pink, just a little, because it's farther away. His seat, I'm gonna leave alone. This is part of, like this is the actual seat. I'm just gonna add a little bit of pink there. If I want, I can take black and kind of go in. Maybe I will do that. Black is really, really black. So typically, you know, an artist would not use like black out of a tube. Because it's just so like, you know, for lack of a better like way to describe it, it's so like intense. That's the word I was looking for. So you have to really be careful with black. So what I'm gonna do is take a little bit of black, put it in the well, mute it with a little water. And I'm gonna use this to like recapture my eyebrow that I lost a little bit. And you know, the ear and the nostril situation. Maybe like under the lip, maybe like the actual lip. See, it helps with some of those details that maybe you painted over. The neck, under there should be dark. Maybe I want to lose a little for some of those hand details that I lost. Maybe you really want to dilute it to bring some of his worry lines out. His hairline, maybe. Oh, maybe I don't like that last stroke. Maybe I want to dilute that a little with water and brown. This is the point where I'm going to make myself stop, because I feel like if I keep going, I might lose something. So I want to show you the difference between using the undertone and not. So you don't have to use undertone. You can just go with the brown and just dig right on in with his skin. And that's what I did with this piece. Can you see the difference? Like, see that? See the difference? I also want you to see the difference between what happens when you paint all the way through and when you leave a little bit of white. I think it's a little more interesting. But again, you do what you want. I think this looks better than this, but it's not wrong. It just, you know, it just gives it a different look. So that's the video. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for hopping on. Check back at DerekTerry.com to see what this month's paint kit is. Really trying to help people to tap into their creativity as a form of meditation and self-care and reflection and all that good stuff. I am available for private moments like this, or we can do Zoom, we can do in person. Yeah, so reach out, Derek Terry, DerekTerry.com, Derek at DerekTerry.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, at Rev Derek Terry. Take care, please. Let me see what you came up with. Peace.